And we are back, getting ready for the final game of Day 4 in the LJL Spring Split. Crest Gaming Act versus Detonation FocusMe. And I think I would be remiss to say that obviously everybody in the world, apart from a certain objectively... I'm not going to say objectively wrong, but objectively memeing at least to some extent, caster to my right.
I'm going to join in with him.
Oh, are we really doing this?
Today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm going to be the one who says the objective fact. Detonation FocusMe are clear favorites in this game. You guys, how does CJ take them down?
I don't know about that one, Oak. It feels like 2-1 here on the desk.
Yeah. And I'm a color caster as well, so I'm always right? I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Do you want to take who's gonna be the one to burst the bubble?
Let's build it up as much first, right? Like,
yeah, okay.
Where are the angles? Where are the angles?
So the angles for CJ in this matchup, obviously, not the favorites. But DFM's early games haven't been particularly fast paced. Now, any other team in the league, I would be inclined to say they don't know what they're doing. But DFM have had a history of knowing what they're doing when it comes to playing League of Legends. They seem very happy and content to scale up. They've picked a lot of these scaling side lane pushes for Ebby. But around the sort of 20-25 minute mark, CJ have historically, and from what we've seen so far this split, been good at finding team fights. So if the early game doesn't get too out of hand for CJ, and if Hybrid is able to secure a pick that he can properly carry on, I think that if they find a couple of team fights around that point in the game, then maybe the gold lead gets too big for DFM to deal with.
Is Zeri ever getting through this draft, considering Hybrid's performance on it against Axes? Because he fell way behind in the first 15 minutes and then just popped off for the entire rest of the game.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple of draft adaptations. Like, for example, not only has Hybrid played the Zeri, done really well on it, he hasn't played Jinx yet. And we actually saw Utapon pick up the Jinx in last game against Hawk.
Yeah.
It looks really good in it.
Historically, something he never does.
As far as I'm aware, CJ is blue side, which means that there could be some specific bans towards this bot side to really limit Hybrid's pool. And so we're going to have to see what he can chuck out. You know, stuff he's played last season that we saw him do so well on. Stuff like the Ezreal, which I think he played quite a bit of. We might even see an angle towards maybe the Jinx still might come in. I think Jinx is obviously one of the key blue side blind picks at the moment. People are still trying to figure out an answer to that. Yeah, looking at DFM as a whole is with the holes the CGA have shown in some of their individual play. I'm very scared DFM are just going to pluck them apart. I think Steel is my big facilitator for how the early games could go well for DFM. Just because Kassin has made some choices sometimes that have not affected the team positively. Whereas Steel has been super consistent, very willing to play towards his team. He's done the Poppy jungle twice now. Last bit, although he had a lot of Zinzao gameplay, I don't think he's been allowed the Zinzao yet this season. Yeah. Pretty sure he's not been given that champion. Yeah,
with good reason, perhaps.
Twice. They've also done the Diana as well. He just loves playing towards either heavy ganking or playing towards his team fights, and he still manages to find a lot of early game leads. I want to watch Steel in this matchup. Yeah.
I mean, the man's been living up to his name. He's already got 2 Baron Steals this season.
Yeah.
4 games played, looking very, very confident. In fact, I need to bring up, obviously, the team atmospheres, because we've seen interviews translated by the lovely Hina.
I've loved the interviews.
For all of us who can't fluently speak Japanese. And obviously, we've had several DFM interviews, and all of them about how the new Korean players are fitting into the team really well.
Yes.
They all seem to be really getting along. Evie is... there was what they saying about Yaharong actually doing some of the pickups on translations.
Yeah.
Being really, really good at his Japanese, which is fantastic to see.
And that's not something that we were really expecting coming in. The big question around this DFM roster was, how do these new Korean pickups that they've got integrate into the roster? And it's been really great. We've been hearing stories about Grandpa Evie. Obviously, the translating being done by Yaharong is a really good sign. His Japanese is coming along well as well. And Harp was also talking about just how fun the team atmosphere was and how much he was enjoying being a part of this squad. So when you're looking really good on the Rift, obviously it's easier to have that sort of lightheartedness in the team atmosphere, but it's a good sign going forward that these early results they've got for themselves aren't just a fluke, and we've got a solid team here.
And conversely, from the side of CGA, in their win, we had a chance to chat with Nemo as well, and some similar, like, just fun moments of him going for the engage and hybrid flaming him. It's like, Nemo, why don't you protect me? And it was a very... It's always nice to see the teams joking around. Like, it didn't seem like there was any actual flame involved in it, and... it's always like when the teams are having fun, especially in a situation like CJ, maybe because it's early in the split, they're not worrying too much about their record, that they're still having fun and going about it the way that they like. And we have a draft coming up, gentlemen. So I'm going to bow out for the final time of the day, let you take this one away. CGA versus DFM to close out day 4.
Okay. Oh, Oak. So glad that we got rid of him. Oh, it was just really winding me up there.
Yeah, die, man.
But we do have draft on our screen now. CGA taking away that Poppy from Steel, very important there. Taking away the Tryndamere from Ebby, also a key takeaway.
See what else they go towards. So yeah, we mentioned the Poppy already, and DFM have had some unique picks that other players haven't picked up as much so far. I'm looking towards Camille top lane on. Ebby has been really happy to just pick this champion on and pick it early as well, and has done really well on it, alongside this Poppy, which gets taken away, and the Tryndamere. So CJ definitely in the right direction towards their bans. I just want to see what their blue side is, because the Aphelios, we mentioned it briefly. What if that gets taken away from Hybrid? What are his other choices going to be?
Is going to be that Xin Zhao lock-in, take away from Steel, obviously, and a decent pickup for Cassin. One of the few junglers that I think is strong enough in the early game to fit for the style that this guy often ends up going towards. A lot of aggressive invades, a lot of skirmishing. Doesn't tend to go too well for him most of the time, but Xin Zhao is a champion that can kind of cheat in that regard. I do just want to very, very briefly touch on the DFM bans before we jump into the rest of this champion select. These are so targeted at Hybrid, man. The Zeri and the Aphelios taken off the table, and the TF, even though he has been nerfed on this patch, such a great enabler for a lot of these bot lane plays. DFM know who they need to shut down.
And immediately the response coming in from this Zinsal, the Renekton, which can be flexed into multiple roles. We have seen Yaharong play in the first game of the split. On top of that, they get the Jinx for Utapon. You mentioned it briefly, the game against Hawks. Utapon played quite well. Yeah. Pretty good on it. And Jinx being one of the strongest ADs on the patch definitely is going to help facilitate that. It also works well with multiple comps. I love saying this about ADs because you can say it about basically every single one that's good right now. But it's true. Jinx, while she is a hyper carry and she wants as much peel as possible, she walks forwards basically perpetually if you can get excited. And that really helps to facilitate some of the more skirmish heavy comps that we get to see on current patch. And the response comes in the Ezreal. Hey, prediction's still on point. I mentioned it briefly. This is most played last season. And when you pair that with, I mean, I'm hoping he builds correctly. My eyes are going to be in the itemization from Hybrid, because there are some key choices you can make on this Ezreal to really help either skirmish or teamfight heavy things.
And we'll get to that in a little bit there, Oak. As Gragas locked in for Nap in the top lane, and it actually gives us a little bit of a different matchup than maybe we were expecting. Nap on a strong weak side tank, not really too surprising. But Ebby going away from these split pushers a little bit, going back to the old faithful in the Renekton, and the Nidalee is not something that we see Steel pull out all too often, but when he does, this can be so destructive.
Yeah, played it 4 times last season, and Renekton Nidalee is probably the default pairing we see in Korea. Like, people just love to do this combination together because that's stun. You need CC to help set up Nidalee for these repeated ganks, but when this champion starts that play, and if you can pilot it well, this champion is disgusting to one of the fastest clearers in the game. Really, really good ganks if you have that CC set up. I am so excited to see how Steel can pilot this.
Now we are seeing Enchant is actually banned away by both sides. Now the Yuumi,
Well,
a classic pairing with the Ezreal, a lot of safety, and then come mid-game, you've got a Yuumi, which is always nice. The Lulu has been a strong pairing with the Jinx basically forever, and you really don't want to enable Utapon. He's been one of these AD carries that has just dominated the LJL for oh so long. Yes, he's doubled the number of Jinx games he's going to be playing in the past 3 days, but if that Hawks game is anything to go by, he is perfectly well practiced on this champion.
Yeah, and with the Alistair taken away as well, Nemo's already played this split, and it pairs really well with the comp so far, so really happy to see this ban come through. Now, I would be surprised to see a second support ban. I wouldn't be surprised to see a potential top lane ban. Oh, they do take away the Leona. That makes sense. The Nidalee pairing, we want to see that taken off the board, but this gives DFM easy access to either getting the support on board now, whatever they feel is it works best with what's left, or we could see a potential counter pick come in if they decide to pick their top lane or mid lane early.
This would be a little bit bold. Yaharong hasn't opted towards the assassins too much. It's mostly been the Victor and then Renekton champions that can kind of cheat priority in the mid lane, but we are getting a different look this time around.
And with the Akali coming in, now these solo lanes are not set yet. Depending on what they decide to pick in the mid lane or CJ decides to pick in the mid lane, these swaps could still swap around. But this is most likely heading towards the mid lane for Yaharong. And this means there are a couple of builds that we might opt into. With 12.3, we saw changes to Chem Tank even. That mean that it's not as powerful on these champions that are repeatedly fighting. Better on the junglers, slow clearing, can proc it more repeatedly. So we might still see that build path, however. There is obviously the more common build path, the AP variant that I think people would want to see on the Akali, and I'd be excited to see that too.
As CGA locking the Syndra in response, and then that Tom Kench as well. I'm already a little bit worried for this composition because there's not a lot of damage here in DFM. Yeah, they've got a couple of heals from that Nidalee, but that big Renekton is going to be in the front line. It feels like there's no one that can properly deal with him.
They're going to see how they decide to counter pick into support. They opt into the Rakan. We saw it last game. We actually saw it piloted fairly well up until big team fight started. And once again, this Rakan is going to be primary engaged for this composition. So Harp, eyes on you to help facilitate your team, especially once we get into mid game and skirmishes start. Actually, the draft from DFM, really surprising. What I think we're opting into is a skirmish comp. I don't think there's going to be much team fighting. They have made it work with the Trinity in the past. They've actually done these 5-man groupings. And we may see them try and pull this out here. But with the draft so far, I don't know. I'm interested to see how the team fighting is going to start with DFM. Alternatively, the CGA, a lot of pressure at different points in the game. So Kaito on the Syndra. We know this champion to be as oppressive in lane as can be. I want to see how well he's going to pilot this. He has played it this split already. He played it last split as well. So one of his more comfortable champions, I guess. You know, we still haven't seen him on the LeBlanc yet, I think. So
don't believe so, no.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how he's going to play it. And this means that that's at least is one lane for them to largely play through. And I think Cassin definitely would want to play through that. Aggressive junglers in the name for him. He's really trying to get some leads.
I'm sort of bringing it back a little bit to this DFM composition. We did just see right at the end of the champion select that the Renekton and the Akali were swapped over. So it is going to be Yaharong with that Crocodile in the mid, Ebby on the Akali in the top side, which I think fits a little bit more with what we've been seeing from these players in terms of playstyle so far. But I like the point on the skirmish composition. And forgive me, I kind of want to do a little bit of hypothesizing here.
Okay.
So,
let's think.
DFM, they've been playing slower in the first few games, and it's been working out well for them. Their team atmosphere is good. Everyone's having fun. They're all enjoying it. I feel like this is a little bit of a case of scrimming in officials, because it is a composition which requires a bit more of that coordination. Everyone needs to be turning up to these skirmishes on time. Everyone needs to be operating at maximum efficiency if this composition is going to work. So they're trying to build that synergy. They're trying to train themselves to be able to find these advantages, not with compositions that will just win by them being a little bit more passive, but compositions where they need to actively get stuff done. We are jumping onto the Rift now. CGA on the blue side, trying to take a scalp off of DFM, who are looking to continue their unbeaten streak so far in 2022.
Yeah, DFM are looking so strong this split. We talked about, you know, LCK players coming in and out. We're swapping out some old Koreans for some new ones and have remained largely at the top of this split as well. I don't think anybody can dispute that they're looking like the strongest team. Well, there's some conversation. CGA is looking real strong at the moment.
Yeah, I have heard that. Look on the runes just here. Harp actually opting for the Predator on the Rakan. So this is saying to my my gold brain right here, Oak, that this Rakan wants to get out of this lane as soon as possible.
You know what? Your gold brain's correct. Just like we saw in last game, once level 6 gets activated via Harong and especially Ebi, I want to see Harp rotate up this lane as much as possible because Ezreal Kench, relatively little pressure in lane. Whilst Nemo on the Kench going to be able to bully out Harp if they go for these 2v2s. I think actual fighting or initial fight strength against Utapon going to be kind of minimal, unless we see dives come in from Kassin as well as nothing.
Yeah, procking that bone plate off of Nema though, that's a miniature objective that that you can take for yourself in the bot lane. I think people really tend to underestimate how much damage reduction it can provide to you. So if you are looking for any all-ins, it's important to take that off the board. Yaharong with his second game of the Renekton, a bit of a cheater champion in the mid lane as Nap. With that level 2 spike, can aggress onto Ebi, the Akali, not known for her potency in the early levels.
Absolutely not. Yeah, Ebi's going to be playing on the back for the first 3 levels or so, I think. Maybe when level 4 gets here, maybe we'll see a little bit of fighting. But anyway, still marginally ahead and actually behind on clear compared to Kassin, which I'm quite surprised to see. I guess they started leashless, so it might be a bit of a slower clear.
Yes, yeah. Does make it harder as Yaharon going forward, trading with that Cull the Meek. Been very impressed with him so far. Kaito, we still need to see more from him. He had a half-decent showing in Academy. Coming in, was tipped to be one of our weaker players. Has looked solid so far, but solid isn't good enough to carry the CGA.
Absolutely, and I think when you put the Syndra into the later matchup, it'd be quite difficult for him to press the lead too hard, and this is really where this champion comes into play. So in turn, we'll be looking instead at this lane and maybe looking at how skirmishes start and how will Kaito compare it with Kassin and get, you know, Syndra 6 oh so potent. And when you pair that with,
hybrid.
I should be talking. Hybrid is so low.
The ignite.
Oh my.
That was so close.
It's a reminder for me to stop monologuing. Yeah, that was scary from Hybrid there. Has to burn the heal, but Heart burn the ignite, so a little bit of a summoner change. We're going to see Steel immediately move down to enforce a choke out of the CS hit.
And this is something that we've seen from CGA AD carriers in the past and was meant to be sold by the bringing in of Hybrid. This guy coming out from LCK Challengers, but still, you spot the parts around. It's a little bit a ships of Theseus situation. God, try saying that with 4 hours of sleep as Yorong is taken very low in the mid lane. Will he'll back up with the Cull the Meek. No ignite on Kaito means there is no aggressive potential. Utapon now being forced onto by Nema, who can go forward with that Abyssal Dive. Flash is still available for all members of this bot lane, but no other summoners.
Yeah, no combat summoners available anymore, and Yahong's choosing to stay in the lane. Kaito's fallen a little bit low on mana, but there is a cookie in his inventory, so he's probably going to stay a little bit lower. Heavy's looking for an aggressive trade in topside.
Yeah, but this is why the Grace is so good against the Akali. As soon as she hits you out of that shroud, the Bally Bop comes through, connect with an auto attack, and you can kind of just waddle yourself away.
Body Slam also has priority against not only the dash in from the Shuriken, but also it has priority against perfect execution. So I'm sure Ebi's going to love to deal with that come mid game. Also, we see this huge wave coming in. This means that Nab's very likely going to be securing himself a small CS lead in the top side as well as mid. Obviously, range versus melee, Kaito really should be getting a little bit of a CS lead in this mid lane too.
And we've seen this a couple times from Hart, going forward, consistently trying to proc that Guardian. The flash comes through from Nema. And there isn't the follow-up. Kassin just went to clear the ward. A little bit of miscommunication there for CGA.
Maybe it could have been a punish point for them, but Harp immediately flashing back means that Kassin has to respect that. And now that this bot lane's on reset, maybe Steel will potentially look for first Drake, just like last game missing in Infernal. Bit of an easier Drake for you to be looking for in the early gamers. Steel with the level advantage, they're looking for a potential fight.
Yeah, Yaharong dashes forward onto Kaito, but that Ruthless Predator used onto a minion instead of onto the Syndra. Steel wrapping around. Oh, those spears are definitely not balanced. Blasting time already in inventory.
Yeah, I was going to say, the blasting one pickup by Steel is... I mean, he must have specifically been sitting on that 850 gold. Might struggle a little bit with mana, but those jungle items are definitely going to help. But yeah, you can see there, the amount of damage coming out from Nidley already is so high. Now we can take a little bit... Now the game's a little bit slow. We can take a look at vision. We can see some really aggressive red side vision already coming out. Harp moving forward to clear vision on this bot side as they're looking for Nemo. Spear lands.
Doesn't have the flash. Will be able to jump himself away. No interrupts available for DFM. Ooh. That shield was so well timed. Steel was nearly picking up first blood, and he might look for another one!
Wow.
No vision.
Incredible.
Doesn't matter. Yaharong now going forward. Ruthless Predator in the mid lane will dash under the tower.
Oh my God.
Kaito! Oh
Whoa.
my goodness gracious me. DFM are just hands checking CGA.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... I saw the all-in there, Kaito using the unleashed power, and I thought, nah, there's no way Yaharon gets out of this one. And then psych. So we're going to see this in. So Harp with Steel on his side. Remember, they just got Sinzao out of this jungle. So Nemo trying to defend his vision gets punished here. And unfortunately, maybe in shot when this final kill comes out. I want to mention, whilst this fighting's happening, look at the vision that gets planted in the bot side jungle here. Not only that, trapped out as well. And then, yeah, Nemo starts recalling. Buddy, stop looking and shot. Kill picked up. And at the same time, Yaharong, you're going to see here, Unleashed Power comes in, chunked so low, uses the ulti to get the HP to live the combination. Dashes past Syndra's first. Oh no, just tanks it. Doesn't care. I was going to say tanks past the key, but no. Just a fantastic coming up from there. And that Iron Spike whip, even after nerfs, looking so strong. And yeah, you mentioned kind of more of a scrim heavy draft coming out from DFM. It's working. Working pretty well.
It is working well indeed. The Triumph proc also coming through just before that final tower shot to keep Yaharong alive. 8 minutes on the clock now, so Shelly is on the rift. Drake has been up for a little bit of time too, as Yaharong will go forward, land the Ruthless Predator, and this is the combination we were so scared of. Another kill for Steel. Yeah.
When you get that rage, you want to be using that Call the Meek to... No, not Call the Meek. You want to be using the stun because you get that enhanced stun duration. That combos with the spear to force Kaito's flash early, and then he just follows afterwards. The bouncer picks up the kill. Very clean coming out from this combination. This is what we wanted to see, right? It's going to lead into the Herald. On top of that, now that they built up a 2-kill gold lead onto Steel, I'm surprised to see if this leads into this straight, because Nidalee, once he gets a couple of kills on the board, could be so oppressive around these skirmishy fights, repeated spears coming out.
Kassin, he's 2 levels down on Ebby. The Crescent Guard used, but it's not quite in time. So much damage with the perfect execution. He flashes on top of him. Kassin, what on earth was that, buddy?
And you and me are both in shambles as CJ the seams are being ripped apart. We mentioned CJ being one of the weaker teams, and individual outplays coming out from the whole side of DFM means that...
Oh no, Kaito. This is going to be his 3rd death in just as many minutes. We're talking about Ruthless Predator being the Renekton W. We've got 5 Ruthless Predators on DFM right now because they do not stop bullying out this mid lane. Rift Herald is going to be spawned here as well. The snowball is just so beautiful.
Yeah, it's literally, macro-wise, this is perfect. They find the kill, they get the Herald, they find the kill in mid lane, they chunk the turret down to just below 3 plates, they use the Herald, pick up first turret, 9 minutes in the game. And this gives so much. This is the reason why we had the Renekton mid. All the priority that it first establishes gets played through perfectly with Steel. And we can see that playing off not only through individual kills, but look at the vision coming out from DFM. Large red side scattered vision across the board means that every movement from Kassin has been here, and you can see it getting pinged out. As I think CJ are going to try and see if they can steal away the Drake. They know that DFM are on recall timers, so Harp's going to spot this out, but not really anything they can do about that. DFM still going to remain largely in the lead. That Dragon time is going to be anything that's slowed down for them.
Yeah, Kassin doing his best James Bond impression there, providing his team a quantum of solace, but that's all it is. 10 minutes into this game, DFM 5 kills, 5k in the advantage. And we said before we got into even the champ selectors, the beautiful arcane shift away by Hybrid there, that the copium, the avenue that CJ had to attack was in the sort of 20-25 minute mark if they can maintain parity with DFM. And that did look a little bit weird. Yaharong kind of just auto-attack nothing there.
I think it was an enemy ping that was red. And so, I don't know. Spectator bugs aside, a bit now that this mid lane's been unlocked, and especially with this iron spike, the Gordring already being picked up, CJ, DFM are easy to aggress. They look for the pick on Nemo, and they're going to find it here.
Super Mega Death Rocket goes wide as Steel dives under the tower. Hybrid throws out the True Shot Barrage, but it doesn't connect onto anybody. Clears, doesn't even clear out some minions. Just not a great ultimate there, ultimately. Yep. And Ebby now starting to do everything's. Being a little bit rude in the top side, and Kassin could look to punish. Explosive Cast will knock him away into the path of Jin Zhao, who uses the Wind Become Lightning. Ebby doesn't get the perfect execution over the wall, and finally, CGA hit back.
Bit of limit testing coming out from Ebby there, trying to proxy a wave when all his players are on bot side. Good for him, you know. Doesn't end up playing it off perfectly, though. Kill given over specifically to Kassin. I'm going to see if he can actually translate this to anything. Whilst CJR 6k gold down at 12 minutes. That's a really big gold gap. Yeah. There could be potential avenues for CJ to continue to find, for CJ to turn around any of this. And it's through Kaito and the amount of pure damage that they have on this team. I really want to see if individual players in DFM overstepping gets punished. So Steel, for example, walking into the spot side by himself. Arca, Sin, and Kaito. Oh my god.
Oh, that's not okay.
Okay.
Oak, yeah. Well, Oak, you could talk all the macro, you could talk all the strategy that you want, but when a spear is hitting you for half your HP, all of it seems to fall away a little bit. I do like what DFM have done here, though. They brought Ebby down into the mid lane. They recognize that he doesn't have the teleport, whilst Yaharong does have that summoner spell. Renekton, still a pretty good top laner as well. We'll grab a couple of these plates as well. And if a play does precipitate on the bottom side of the map, he's still going to be able to join.
Absolutely. He's also going to have a lot of priority in the Gragas lane. Especially with this Gore Drinker built already, I wouldn't be surprised to see him trying to bully out Nat just a little bit. And we're seeing here immediately dashing forward and aggressive, trying to get some HP advantage. And this is going to force not only Nav to play a little bit more defensively, but it can also establish a potential dive for DFM. Remember, this is the final tier 1 they need to be looking towards.
No explosive cast, no flash, no hope. Yaharong with another kill. And in the bot side, DFM are getting kills as well. You shouldn't be able to get kills on two sides of the map at the same time, but they will do it. Kassin diving forward onto Hub will pick up the trade kill, but is Utapon in kill range? I think it might be likely. Flashes back, tries to get away from the wall, but will get taken down. Kassin 3-1, making stuff happen.
Yeah, this gold lead is diminishing just a little bit now as DFM are going to make sure that doesn't happen. Immediately pick up the final tier 1 and concrete their lead just a little bit more. But yes, Kassin has 3 kills. This could be an avenue for CGA to find a potential comeback. DFM obviously repeatedly been very clean, and we're going to see the dive come in here. This, or not the dive even, the 2v3 as DFM just set themselves up for just some really big initial damage, which means that when Kassin is coming in to gank this, I mean, look, he's already played this CGI already playing in the back foot. Luckily, Kassin abusing a very powerful jungle champion with that Crescent Guard means Utapon has to walk really, really close to try and find effective damage here. Kassin picks off Rakan so quickly that then it leaves Utapon by himself, picks off the second kill, and Utapon using the flash there, just trying to find that edge in damage, but it isn't enough.
Oh, it's not quite the perfect it's not quite the perfect turret plate sweep, but it is pretty damn close. 13 out of a possible 15, 2,000 gold just from those plates. 2,000 gold lead at 15 minutes would be pretty good for DFM regardless, but they've also got a few kills to boot, and that's produced an 8,000 gold advantage from them. That's pretty disgusting, honestly, and you can inhale as much CGA copium as you like, but I think this one might be done and dusted. The only question now for DFM is, can they end it before 20 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, Herald usage is going to be really important if they're going to be looking for that. playing through this mid lane, unlocking as much of these tier 2s before the Herald gets used could be a really good avenue to secure yourself an inhibitor really early on. So you have to be careful when you're securing an inhibitor early, as DFM want this fight. They don't want to give up the Drake. Bounties
that
go
is
over,
beautiful.
and fantastic, brilliant. Very good, very clean from CGA to just get a little bit of a gold bounty picked up for themselves, and also slow down DFM for a potential win condition for this team.
And I mean, DFM giving up 2 Drakes is something that we saw them do a lot in summer when trading it for gold advantages. It's looking good for them here, but that does present a potential place for CGA to play around. Look at that vision, though, in the top side. Baron doesn't even spawn for another 4 minutes, but DFM don't seem to care at all. They are aggressing further and further into CGA's jungle with each passing minute and making it harder and harder for them to play the game.
Yeah, and unfortunately, CGA had been met with a Cloud Drake, and this is not one of those big turnaround Drakes. This is more of a win more Drake. Feeling sorry for CGA, but also I feel like we're seeing Cloud Drake quite a lot today.
Yeah.
I think we've seen it in both of our games, and I'm pretty sure they saw it this morning as well. So yeah, that's fun.
A divine wind has graced the LJL as DFM doing some more of that vision denial, more of that vision clearing.
Look at it.
Opting into a little bit of a 1-3-1 right now with Yaharong in the top side, Ebby in the bot, and Steel, Utapon, and Harp just dancing all the way in between. With there not being a Baron available, it does make pushing down these towers a little bit harder, but Shirley can help with that significantly. Summoned on the bot side, want to funnel some more of this gold into Ebby's back pocket.
Yeah, and they're just going to aggress here. Great timing on the Herald, pairing it up with the Siege Minion to really try and get as much effective value out of it as possible. Wouldn't be surprised to see them rotate. Okay, they're going to do it before I can call it properly, but hopefully they're going to be rotating through to unlock some of these other tier 2s. So rotating towards this mid turret as this Herald pulls all of the members of CGA down to bot side. They had to clear up this wave, and this puts them on the back foot as DFM continue their vision control and look towards mid tier 2 as well. This is very clean macro coming out, and they're really trying to push their gold lead as much as possible. Because remember, the real next objective for them to be looking for is Baron. So they're trying to keep edging gold for as long as possible and keep the pressure up until that Baron spawns.
And the thing is, if CJ can get a Baron still, whether that be hybrid with a true shot barrage, which is just absolutely wonderful, Kassin sneaking around, finding a place behind the pit, they're not so far behind that it makes them irrelevant. And Baron buff is especially strong at the sort of 20-minute mark when people don't really have the items to de-push those Baron minion waves. So I think CGA looking to do a little bit of a DFM jungler here, grab a steal onto one of those major objectives. And I think that's probably the most consistent way they've actually got of keeping themselves in this game.
On top of that, I mean, we can't rate the explosive task enough for grabbing some overstepping individual members from DFM, whether that be Steel, who's now picked up a Zhonya specifically to avoid that, or Ebby, who's been playing very aggressively in these side lanes. If they're able to pair that up with the unleashed power, perhaps a solo kill or just a shutdown could be found onto the key members of DFM.
Yeah, I think we're waiting on a couple of items as well. Obviously, DFM significantly far ahead in that regard, but CGA are starting to move towards these breakpoints. Kaito has picked up that Luden's Tempest. We've had the Gore Drinker on Kassin for a little while, and once Hybrid gets that Mirror Mana fully stacked, this Ezreal is going to be probably at the strongest point that he is going to be at this game. I'm not sure if it's enough to compete with the DPS that Utapon is going to be putting out, but it's still a good spot for you.
I think the Triforce must come from ease of build, because I think really specifically here, I think with this comp you've drafted, an Eclipse angle, a penetration angle could definitely be good for the Ezreal here, but he's opted into Triforce just because of how easy, especially when you're playing from behind, how easy Triforce is to build into. All of those individual components would be really easy to pick up.
Hybrid.
Oh,
Super Mega Death Rocket. Harp throws out the Ignite. Is that actually going to be enough? They're thinking about it here. That was a little bit too close, but holding on to the hill is good there, and it was a couple of resources invested by DFM. Yeah, not massive, but it's a small victory nonetheless.
Yeah, it shows how scary DFM are at the moment. Utapon through that Super Mega Death Rocket Alwyn. Hybrid was just over half HP, and DFM, Harp even, didn't even commit to using the ultimate, just popping a Q and an Ignite, and with an inch of his life to spare, Hybrid managed to live that out. So yeah, we're really seeing how far ahead DFM are at the moment. Finally, Utapon opting towards this last shadow. Oh my god,
Last
my
Whisper.
brain's gone.
Last Whisper.
Last Whisper. There you go.
I got you, man.
Which means he's going to be looking towards that Lord Dom's third, specifically trying to pick apart CJ's front line. You can tell from this kind of comp that because DFM don't have much of a front line, they want to split apart CJ's front line as quickly as possible, and finally picking up their first Drake of the game, Cloud Drake, which I mean, at least compared to last season, it's a little bit more. You're happy to pick up these individual Cloud Drakes because they do a passive's a bit more effective. And
it's a very DFM thing to do, right? This has been a team who has been very strong at recognizing enemy teams' win conditions, and they see that, CGA are very far behind right now, but we don't want to be giving them soul point needlessly. We don't want to be letting them make that proactive trade. So it is going to potentially delay the Baron take by a few minutes, but fundamentally, it's just DFM trying to keep this win as secure and clean as possible.
Yeah, I think DFM definitely going to be fishing for the best angle for Baron as possible. That's when somebody shows on bot side where they know that Ebby can either force a flash out of them or at least find HP advantage, and then DFM can look towards this Baron because Ebby will be free to get a wave shoved in bot side and forces split decisions coming up from CJ, whether or not they defend the bottom inhibitor turret or if they look towards this Baron. So keep eyes on Ebby and the rest of the team and how they circumnavigate this kind of larger macro choice they have positioned at the moment. For now, we're just going to see continual wave shoves in and DFM continue to extend their vision lead as much as possible.
Yeah, Hybrid is very close to completing that mirror mana though, so the Ezreal going to be at a decent point of power, but yeah, DFM slowed down significantly in the past sort of like 5 to 7 minutes purely because the things that they want to take are just not really on the map at that point. Final tier 2 tower going to go down here on the top side despite Nap's protestations. Actually, Shirelia's popped here by half. They're not quite going to be able to defend this tower as Utapon is being knocked into the rest of the team. The True Shot Barrage does so much damage, but the Jinx is still alive, and now he can start to free fire. Double kill already for Utapon as Nebo has a Shuriken on his head, but Ebby won't flip forward. Those are the 2 picks that you were looking for. DFM going to go straight over to this Baron.
So unfortunate for CJ. Utapon living within an inch of his life, double summon his burn, but he gets out for free. That's 2 kills picked up in the front line for CGA, knocked down, which means there's no chance for them to be contesting this Baron. And we're going to see here, Nap comes in with a fantastic body slam flash, immediately with the explosive cast to pick up Utapon. And the damage, look how hard it goes, almost finds the kill onto Utapon, but Harp and the rest of his team responding very quickly to CC down the front line of CGA as Kaito and Hybrid really aren't in position to find any effective damage in that fight. Very clean from DFM, and yeah, almost a turnaround point for CJ, but unfortunately they're so goal behind at this point, the damage just isn't there.
And as Hail Marys go, that was a pretty close one. I think if you can take out
really
Utapon there, a lot of damage is being taken off the board, and CGA have been very, very good at these team fights around the sort of 20-25 minute mark. They are a little bit too far behind for it to be relevant now, but we can see just there what this team can do when they're all on the same page, when they are working together. If Hybrid and Kaito maybe a little bit closer to that fight, could be looking at a few less kills in the DFM column, few more in the CGA column, in a game that is a little bit less tragic.
Yeah, this ridiculously the DFM built up was a mixture of individual outplay as well as larger macro choices from the team. You can tell that not only are these players set up for success easier through Harp and Steel being always in the right points, but also the draft playing out so well for them.
That's been a beautiful showing from them so far. Haven't taken an inhib yet though. A minute and a half remaining on the Baron, and CJ's defense has actually been pretty strong there. Hybrid going over the wall a little bit aggressive, but absolutely fine. Nemba was talking about Hybrid as a little bit more aggressive than Honey in one of the interviews that we did hear from, and we're seeing that there. This guy is a high-risk, high-reward player and hasn't really panned out this game, not been getting involved quite as much as he would like to. But there is still time to change that. These Mystic shots, this True Shot Barrage does a fair amount of damage, but a spear to the face is going to give DFM all the pressure that they need. Inhib tower number 1 is falling as Ebby just in the mid lane, trying to do the same thing as well. Kaito throws out that force of will, but it's not quite enough. DFM are just posturing now. They're just waiting for one member of CGA to overstep, for one person to get slightly out of position. And look how far back Utapon is standing. He's not allowing himself to get picked off at all.
You can play this as slow as needed, even with this dragon spawning in under a minute now. They know they can look at these turrets, scatter the weak hits and the jinx, but they aren't able to find any more damage. Because of this double in hit potential.
Ebby with the perfect execution, Harp into the backline. Nema has been caught out, and Ebby grabs the first kill of the fight. Yaharon gets another one as CGA. It's just devastation in the base. No hope for them to play out that fight. And DFM, it wasn't faster than 20 minutes, but it was still pretty damn rapid. Continue their unbeaten run and stand alone at the top of the table.
What a game. And especially that last fight where DFM, they unlock the mid turret and immediately start that fight. They know exactly what they're looking for in that, not just in that fight there, but the whole game. They knew exactly where they needed to be at all times. Macro was incredibly clean from these players. Mechanically, they played through quite a hard comp very, very well. Yeah, I'm very impressed now. We've already had some standout games from DFM. There we go. My brain just staggered from
honestly, bro, I don't know why the logo looks like DNG. I don't know what is going on with that one, to be perfectly honest. But yeah,
well, it's Detonation Gaming, but they haven't done
Detonation Gaming. It's all a bit weird. What wasn't weird though was the play. That was vintage DFM. That is exactly how they play. We've swapped some pieces out, but it seemed pretty clean nonetheless. Yeah, it's against CGA. Yeah, it's a little bit of a scrim in officials situation, but they still look very strong doing it, look very promising. And looking into the next few weeks, I think we can really start to talk about this DFM as a squad that is looking to dominate the LJL once again.
That's a very exciting place to be in. We're going to head to a short break now, I think, and then we'll be back to talk about the best parts of that game.
Yeah.
When the curtain falls, risk it all, hold nothing back, seize the day, we must attack. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies. The champions of a world that we defy. A solar ray of the few who rise up high. And we all fight at the Can we bring to fall the giants? 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 We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies. The champions of a world that we defy.
Welcome back to the analyst desk for the final time of the day after DFM in convincing fashion take themselves up to 4-0. And I don't really have much more to say about the game. That they came onto the Rift in third gear and didn't let up from there.
And I've got a special guest who's actually asked us. I asked him about the games. and he's got something to share.
Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, I think DFM did really well then. Steel is my favourite player. There you go.
Adorable. Thank you, Arlo.
Well, he has been a strong performer for them. Arlo
Absolutely.
was making a very good point there. The pressure that DFM were able to throw into the mid lane, Yaharon got one solo kill onto Kaito, and then it felt like a switch flipped in everyone on DFM's heads going, hold on, we can just kill this guy repeatedly. And they did that. The Syndra was so hard punished. And then from that point, DFM did such a good job of moving their advantages around the map and really didn't let off the gas at all.
There was a couple of cross-map opportunities that CGA did take a good advantage of course. Kassin showing up and cleaning up that 3v2 in the bot lane was very nice to see. I believe we've got a replay of that. Production is ready. Yeah, there we go. It starts off with the dive on Nap.
Just really well played here. I think, remember, they'd already unlocked mid turret at this point. So Yaharong, that's just a classic Renekton combination where, basically multiple plays coming up from DFM on multiple sides of the map. So we see the dive on top side at the same time. Finally, Kassin gets a little bit of a fight angle. Remember, picking up that earlier kill as well means that he gets to pick up 2 kills here. And we almost saw this as a turnaround point for CJ, especially after Jinx burned double summoners. But even through this play and Kassin finally finding 3 kills, it never felt like DFM let off the gas. It felt like they were continuing in control. And we saw that. I think the key thing I want to outline is through their vision. It was like fireworks across the side of CGA. They were unable to see anything other than they were sweeping constantly, and DFM were really quick on the ball to go, no, this is not your jungle anymore. Reassert their vision line. And yeah, Harp playing through, I think Harp and Steel seem to just be super on the ball with each other, know exactly how each other wants to play and facilitating each other to set up for successful fights because of vision control and placement on that.
And yeah, as you said, the game continued snowballing. Incredible gold leads as I spy in Twitch chat. 13,000 gold advantage at the 24-minute mark. And the game didn't last much longer than that, as is shown with the second clip. Clean sweep inside of CGA's base, and DFM just kind of flexing their gold lead at that point.
Yeah, I think flexing their gold lead is really the way to describe a lot of the fights that DFM were going for that game. It didn't feel like they were completely slapping CGA with their wallets, going for stuff that wouldn't work in a scenario where they weren't as far ahead as they were. But they did still use that advantage and utilize it to make aggressive plays.
Yeah, we've got a clip of that final fight.
It perfectly. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we've got a clip of that final fight, so you can continue your point over some live footage. Well, not live footage, but footage.
I think you hold that point perfectly there. Is that the plays they were making, whilst they were definitely showing their gold lead, this was plays being made on the right timers. So as soon we see this first inhib get unlocked topside, they played really cautiously around it. Second mid turret gets going, bam, engage immediately. They knew as soon as that turret is gone, they have the space given on this side of the map to play as upfront as they want, and Nebby's a key facilitator in that. And whilst they're definitely gold leading at this point, a smaller gold lead would have still found that same fight because the fight was played so damn clean.
This is kind of this was a thing we were saying in the time off between the game and now, is that DFM are a team that do play very, very smart. We saw that. They conceded 2 Drakes because they wanted to just ramp up that gold lead as much as possible. It was the same thing we saw them do last year as well, giving up objectives to get a greater advantage elsewhere on the map. And I was going to bring it up in the pregame, but what with the team situation and the way they're playing the maps right now, it's got 2 new players, but it's the same old DFM.
Yeah, I want to be like in the game house in the Discord calls with them, because like they must just be having so much fun. They're playing good League of Legends. Today they were playing aggressive League of Legends, and it's fundamentally interesting League of Legends. And that's really the key takeaway from me. DFM have always, well, for a long time, been this team in the LJL that has been that level above. They've been our representative on the international stage so many times. We had questions coming into spring, and it's good that they've answered so many of them.
Yeah, I think this is the final. They're 5-0 now, right? Like, who has yet to stand against them?
Oh, they're 4-0. They're 4-0. Okay, not quite yet. Not quite yet. They probably will be.
They might become Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing, because I mean, last game at least, we were talking about power of who you fought so far. DFM are taking down some of the bigger players. I mean, Sengoku, Rip, Rascal Jester as well.
Rip.
Game one,
Now with
yeah.
this team, and especially now that they've done this kind of draft, we're seeing variations come out from these players that we weren't expecting, and they're playing it oh so well. I'm very excited to see how DFM continue to play out the rest of the season, because if more unique champions coming out like this, busted alongside with some of the champions they've already played a couple of times, like the Camille, I'm gonna this team looks good.
This team's pretty good.
This team's really
Let's do a
good.
quick roundup on the day then before we hit this one off, gents. Obviously, you weren't on the desk for games 1 and 2, but it's pretty safe to say that game 1, Rascal Jesters cleanly, quite handily took down Axis. And the point that I think was fairly pointed out on the desk was that Axis kind of live and die on how well they can enable Sangchu, especially in situations when they can't get the mid lane rolling either. And it was kind of just,
Well,
I mean, it wasn't too far different from that last one.
Well, it's not too far different from how they were in summer, right? That time it was Honey, this time it's Sangchu. I think Megamin's performances have been a lot better than they were in that split, but yeah, you're still relying on your AD carry to get the majority of your damage down. Sangchu has been one of these Korean players that has really set the league alight, basically as soon as he's come in. But I think for me, that loss was kind of an exposure of how Axis do have on paper weaker players. And I don't think any of us really expected them to come in at the start of the split going 2-0. I think that now that they're sat at 2-2, that's probably a more fair record if we were to go on how we're expecting this team to come in. Obviously, going 0-2 this week doesn't feel great. You don't want to turn it into an 0-3 on Sunday. But Rascal Jester, man, obviously rough against DFM, and they've maybe not been playing quite as clean as they should be, considering that this team has been together for, well, a year at this point. But I think still strong contender for second place right now.
Definitely. Looking towards game 2 then, of course, Sengoku versus V3, and V3's problems are fairly clear to see.
Yeah, I mean, I can't recall the game too far off now. I'm really bad with my memory. It was a bit of a sweep, though. I love watching Sengoku, specifically Jet, who had such a good game there.
He was
very
huge
exciting
on the Silas as well.
Exactly.
We saw 25 sacks on the Magi's, which is great. And yeah, V3, they're really missing Marble. Like, what can I say, man? It's a situation where they don't really have anyone that can stand up and fight. And in a league like the LJL, where teams are willing to scrap sometimes over very, very little, you need that big player, that big star carry. Some teams have got multiple, some teams have only got the one, and teams like V3, it doesn't look like they've got any at the moment.
Yeah, I'm hoping dress code steps up at least a little bit, because it seems like V3 largely want to play the same style they did on Academy. So maybe they're able to facilitate that later on in the season, and we can see how dress code progresses.
Certainly can hope so. And of course, speaking of Marble, we saw signs of life, as we said in the post game from SoftBank Hawks versus Burning Core, but just some fantastic Moonfall engages from Flawless, comboing with the Yasuo, and it just ended up ripping the Hawks apart.
Yeah, I think you can always argue to a certain extent how much was it a Burning Core win, how much was it Burning Core winning, how much was it Hawks throwing, losing. The Baron takes, whilst I think at the point in the game were fine, traditionally Hawks haven't been great at setting up those Barons and fighting around them, and we saw that again this time around. Flawless was... Well, flawless. The Diana ultimates, the Moonfalls were absolutely beautiful, even though Exhaust was getting dropped on him every time he went in. Dice is following up with the last breath, and you need a couple more Exhausts if you want to deal with that combo.
There are so many
very, very
puns for
impressed with how
that.
Flawless and the Yasuo combination with that. It was, Flawless stand out for this whole, for today at least.
For today, yeah.
Definitely, if not MVP for the day, because he was the facilitator for that team. He was the reason they turned that game around, and then he was the reason they eventually won it.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing what happens when you stop playing Janna.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pun and you can't stop me. Flawless sets it up. The Yasuo dices the enemy team, and Fujimoto blanks the Lee Sin engage.
Oh, sure. Oh.
It's
Okay.
I know I made the I made the
okay.
blank joke already, but I was
Okay.
particularly happy. I'm gonna get some extra miles
that's
after that one.
All right, well,
And of
see ya.
course, we've already talked about the DFM dominant performance. So I want to look towards Sunday, of course, day 5. I'm going to be starting off with CGA versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. That could be an interesting one to watch, see if the Hawks can finally get a win on the board. Then that's followed by V3 versus DFM. That should be that
will be League of Legends.
Yes, that will be. Yeah, exactly.
From one of the
I like your
teams.
term for that one. After that, we've got Rascal Jesters versus Sengoku Gaming. That could be an interesting one to watch out for. And then we close out the day with Axis versus Burning Core. Be interesting to see how those two teams in particular match up.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely not a getting up at the crack of dawn angle here. CGA versus Hawks, it will be interesting. These are sort of the two teams, aside from sort of V3 in the league, that haven't really found any sort of footing thus far. Hawks have had some decent early games, but then thrown in the mid game. CGA have had some awful early games, but then look all right in the mid game. So trying to call that one is a little bit like trying to call a football match that's happening in the year 2021 or something. I don't know. Wait, that's already happened.
2025.
I don't know. Even talking about that game is like reducing my IQ.
We're still in March 2020, right? Anyway,
Yeah, still
any final
2019,
thoughts? Yeah, any final thoughts before we round off the broadcast for the day, gents?
I'm really excited to see more Sengoku. They've over the last 2 weeks, they've kind of established themselves
really shown up.
as maybe one of my more favorite teams, especially Jet.
Yeah.
Finally, I have a mid laner who I'm just like, holy, he gives me the flutters in my heart. You know, I got little butterflies in my stomach when I see him play. I'm really excited to see how Sengoku continue as you know, one of the higher level teams. Maybe see them secure second place.
Maybe.
We shall see.
Maybe.
Perhaps. All right. With that, then, we'll call it for the day. I have been Brackish Brit hosting. Alongside me have been, of course, Initialize and RMC initially, followed by yourselves, Middlecott
There we
and
go.
There
Caster Oak.
we are.
Follow us all on Twitter. We're wonderful people. Middlecott is literally
it's not
just
sound
a
like-
living meme. He's just all memes all day.
Yeah,
Also,
no,
of course, check us out on the socials. LJL Unofficial on Twitter, LJL
whatever
OU
that is.
on
Yeah, him.
YouTube, and we've got a Discord server you can chat fun things about as well. We will end
join
it
everything.
for the day.
We're done, man.
Yeah,
We're
no.
done, man.
Chilling. We
Let's just
chilling. Okay, we're gonna go. Okay, thank you very much for coming along, watching. We will see you on Sunday for more LJL action.